Good morning and welcome back, everybody. I'm your host this evening, filling in for my co host, Mr. Ryan Leopard. He's somewhere in the tropics, Aruba, I believe, enjoying life with his family. And I'm here. Terrence took a day off as well. Terrence might be around Fort Wayne just hanging out, sipping on a little margarita or something this morning on this chilly morning. But you have me. I'm here by myself. Well, I'm not by myself, but as far as my co-host, I'm here by myself. But I'm here. We've got a reoccurring guest. Mr. John Pitts has come back to see us all the way from Atlanta. John, good morning and welcome to be here.
Good morning, JJ. Thank you for having me.
All righty. So I've been excuse me, I've been sitting here thinking, I've been to some different seminars and conferences, and here we are. This is our last show for October, and which means we only have 2 months left. So we've been talking finances. We've covered about all the bases that we could cover, and the different workshops and seminars that I've been to have focused on underserved communities, and some of the things that are going on regarding different projects. And we all know about finances and things of that nature. That is a main focus in banks all over the nation, all over the country, trying to help out families, get them to where they can get livable wages, paying jobs, and do something with their finances so that they can actually get ahead. So I bring you on. You come from Atlanta, and they have a lot of different things going on in Atlanta, and they serve. Atlanta's a majority minority city, as we know. Um, just hit on me. Tell me some different things that Atlanta is doing when it comes to home ownership, finances. Um, what do they have going on?
Well, I know that our mayor has really big push on affordable housing, so they're doing a lot of um, stuff around affordable housing, and then like basically we do a lot of, especially in our churches, we do a lot of financial seminars, and to try to get people to help them with their finances, and so the church that I used to go to, New Birth, we had financial planning. And one of the interesting things that I learned, is basically we had to get our people from basically, negative to zero as opposed to from 0 to 100. So we just had to get our people up to a baseline, the people that we were serving. So a lot of things that we knew that you knew growing up or going to college, just your everyday person didn't know. And some of the things that your average everyday person may not know would just be like set up stuff for automatic payment or automatic draft, so that automatically goes to your bank account, so that you don't really have to think about saving. It's just automatic, once you get paid.
Okay, so utilizing technology, and those are things that we have talked about. I hear collaboration in there.
Hmm.
Again, all good things that we've talked about. Um, it always I think about a lot of people, segment of the population, don't even realize what another segment has to go through.
Right,
When I talk about, I call it a shell game.
right,
We've got people literally where you have to make a decision: do I take this new job or get this raise of 25 cents an hour that's going to affect my housing, that's going to affect my child care?
right.
These are decisions that literally people are having to make when you're talking about finances. So it's good that I hear that what you're talking about, some of the things that you guys were doing, and it speaks to what I wanted to talk about. Is a lot of times, again, I've seen a lot of banks, that are trying to do the right thing, that are trying to get out to these communities and serve them. And with that said, these as they get out to serve them, the people have to accept the uh the services that are offered.
Right.
So when we talk about financial literacy classes and things that are being that are being offered, um speak to the importance of people taking advantage of the opportunities that are out there and that's presented to them.
Yeah. I always tell people definitely to take advantage of stuff that's offered. Um, especially if it's in your area of expertise, or if it's not in your area of expertise, something that you need to learn. I definitely, if it's free, definitely take advantage of it, and then try to go to as much as you can, because just for instance, I'm a CPA, so we always have to have continuing education. So I'm always learning something new. And then even if it's a class that you think that you've taken before, you can still take it again, because every time you go, you're going to learn something different that you may have missed before. It's just like reading a book. Read a book the first time, you read it through, you pick up something. If you read it a second time, you pick up something. And then, with the financial classes and all the classes that you're taking, or just a continuing education, sometimes it may not apply to the next day. So there's been instances where I've taken a class. I know, for instance, I took a class 2 years ago, and just now I'm starting to use some of the tools that I learned back then. So it just made me aware of everything that's going on.
Oh man, I love that because and it's funny though because again when I was we were talking about doing this segment, I look back and I'm like, man, we didn't talk about finances every different way,
Mm-hmm.
inside, outside. But you're right. Somebody might be listening today. You might say something that one of our buddies from DNR said. You may be saying the exact same thing, but just in a different way. But as they continue to listen, you know, they get that picture. The other thing, I get feedback from people, actually not even just in the city, but from people, other folks in our branches that have said they've utilized this tool, this platform to educate folks.
Okay.
And which is great. That's the thing that that I've always told folks, use this for. And to your point, you can turn on, you can watch it whenever. You may have watched it one time, turn it on again, or later down the road, and you get a better understanding. A lot of these neighborhoods that I'm talking about too, just to be clear, and I brought up the workshops and seminars, but I mean, and again, I don't have to worry about something. I have to think about something if it's not in my day to day.
Right.
And that's a lot of things that go on within our society. It doesn't affect me, so I'm not worried about it. But when you talk, we hear the term food desert all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's the lack of a grocery store in the area. But I don't hear anybody talk about financial deserts, which there's lack of banks in financial institutions in a lot of these neighborhoods and a lot of these areas. Um, that's where we see a lot of predatory lending, and people just taking advantage because folks don't have access to financial literacy programs in their areas. Um, our bank, and I'll speak a lot of banks out there. There are special products that you have access to that we want, help people get a leg up, like micro loans.
Mm-hmm.
We have a product where you come in, it's interest free. You can get as little as $300 up to $2,000. Um, and you just pay back, each month. So, it's helping you build your credit
Right.
all the while too, you're earning that money interest free. There's special purpose credit programs out there, as far as you know, with home ownership and things that are out there. Again, a lot of banks offer. We've heard about stuff about down payment assistance programs. These are all things that are at people's disposal, but they still have to get out, have to be educated on what's out there. I know you reside in Atlanta, but you back and forth. You here in Fort Wayne. What are some things going on that you may see? Whether it's in Atlanta and you like to see it here in Fort Wayne, or maybe it's something we do good in Fort Wayne that you thought about taking Atlanta. What are some things that you see going on?
I would just say definitely just that the access to capital for entrepreneurs. I don't know about how much it is here, but just there's a lot more access to capital in Atlanta, and then also you just have a lot more professionals to help you get to that next level, because financial literacy is hard in our community. So in Atlanta, you just have a lot more financial people than here in Atlanta, than here in Fort Wayne. So I can go to, again, I'm a CPA, I'm in Atlanta. So if you're struggling in that financial piece, I'm there because we our office is in the community. It's on Panola Road, so our office is in the community. So we see where people, they have great ideas, they want to do certain things, but they just aren't able to get the information that they need. So they use our office sometimes as a resource to help them basically translate the information. Because you're in banking, and like I just deal with people all the time, and I say sometimes bankers, they want to use like big words and stuff like
Mm,
that, and it really doesn't mean that much. They just want to use the big words, and it intimidates someone that doesn't understand what those big words mean. So we're able to help them translate and help them understand, and then also help them understand, hey, if I do this, this is going to impact you right here, to make sure that you can. So we try to make sure that they're getting the best information that they can in order to make the decision. So probably if here in Fort Wayne, I'm still, just still coming back. But I think it's changing. I mean, I think, you guys have new administration here. So I think that we should see a shift towards just more, financial resources for the impacted communities that you're serving.
okay.
Yeah.
Now it's funny. I like how you talked about the big words,
Mm-hmm.
and that is, I mean, I could say there's a language barrier, which is a language barrier because when we talk about our Burmese population, our Hispanic populations, it's only you have to have somebody that's speaking their language in your branch. But in addition to that language barrier, just what you said, you can't talk above people's heads, and it's very intimidating, and it discourages people from going in. They don't want to feel like they're less than or somebody talking down to them, or hey, they can be just as polite as they want, but if everything's going over their head, what does it really mean?
Right.
Um, so again, as an institution, that's something too that people need to understand. You want to do your training that's culturally sensitive. So not even just in speaking in terms that folks can understand, but I mean giving real life examples that people are utilizing or can utilize, but not giving an example that I might not have an idea what the heck you're talking about.
Right. Right.
Almost like the example we all know about the PSAT, and people talk about it being a culturally biased test that's been going on since a thousand years. But that's exactly it. The examples they give, I always think back to good times. And when I remember James Evans took the little fella up, took
Right.
Michael up, and they gave her a test and used some of their examples from the neighborhood. These are things that you have to have in mind when you're teaching. That's why I do it. I honestly I like going out, doing our training when we do financial literacy classes. I walk in. I'm no different than I am in front of this mic, than I am walking down the street, than I am teaching one of these classes. I want to try to be personable. I want to talk to people at a level that they comprehend. And it isn't about trying to impress somebody and show them my knowledge if the message isn't getting out.
Right.
So the other thing with it, I love that you said, you got a business, you guys are right down in a neighborhood where people can come and get services. Well, how versed are you on CDFIs? Are you familiar with CDFI?
I'm familiar with the concept of CDFI.
Okay. And again, these can become big where there are no other lending institutions.
Mm-hmm.
And people could need to educate themselves on that. And then from a CDFI perspective, a lot of them will partner with with banks and things. So there is that avenue. In Atlanta, you guys have some black-owned banks. What's your knowledge of the black-owned banks that are in Atlanta?
Well, I'm not that knowledgeable of the new black-owned banks. I know about the old ones like Citizens Trust, because from when I went down there, some of the clients that I served, and I think probably the firm that I used, we used the black-owned bank because the black-owned bank would lend when the other banks wouldn't, and so it was more it was more personable because you may go to the bank and say you're the bank president. I know you, JJ, and it's just like really any lending institution. So if I come to you, you know me, you've got a history of me of dealing with me, and I may say, hey, I got this project that I'm dealing with, and I know that this happened for real. I have a project that I'm dealing with, and I just need to make sure that I can cover, my payroll for the next 2 weeks, regardless sometimes of what my financials look like. You know that I'm good for the money, and you basically would just say, okay, we're gonna lend you the money and still maybe be 2 or 3% for like a weekly loan or like a 2 week loan, but you're gonna lend me the money, and then I'm gonna pay you back once I get the funding. So that was the black owned banks were really supportive when I was first moving down there to Atlanta, and I don't know now about too much about the different black owned banks, but I do know that they do have different resources for access to capital for you know minorities or small businesses, because yeah, you can get a micro loan, so you can get a $5,000 $10,000 loan for your business. And then some of our clients, they come to us because they're trying to get a loan from like access to capital, and they have needed like financial statements or tax returns, so we have to prepare those for them.
Okay. Okay. Um. So now we get off again. Like I said, we've covered a lot of different areas on this show. I've got a CPA here. I'm just gonna throw a topic at you, and I just want you to get the people a nugget or whatever first thing come to your mind. Um, let's say in terms budgeting. What give me a nugget that you would share that you would tell somebody regarding budgeting.
Budgeting is discipline. I think you talked about that before, because budgeting, you can sit down there and write a budget and allocate your funds all you want, but if you're not disciplined to stay on it, then it's not really going to do you any good. So that's what I think about budgeting. I think it's great. Some people think that it's a negative word, but I think it's great in order for you to, because you want to get to where you want to be, and the budgeting tool will help you, get there.
Okay. What about along the lines of budgeting? About saving?
Savings is important. I think, me personally, I think that we need to make sure that starting off when you're young, that you get that habit of putting money aside first, because, again, just growing up, we may not know too much about savings, and just because we've spent a lot of money a lot of times. So when you get your paycheck, you want to make sure that you first put some money aside for savings, and then you're budgeting off of that.
Okay. Credit.
Credit is great. Credit is great, but you gotta learn to manage your credit. Credit is good and it's bad. It's good because credit can take you places where, if you use it properly, it can help you get things that you're not able to get just on your own. And then also, credit is you're using other people's money, even at a finance charge, but you as long as you're allocating that finance charge in there, then it's good. But if you're using credit as cash, then it's not so good, because now you're using your credit card to pay for items that you may or may not would have bought if you didn't have the cash. But I mean, again, I started off my business. I used my cash. I used my credit cards. I used everything I had, but I was able to manage it because I think I had the discipline to to manage my money, to make sure I was able to make the payments. And then also, I had an exit strategy, because I was like, okay, I'm going to pay it down, pay it down, pay it down. And then, like, even in big business, we had a client. He sold his business, and he was not used to having you know debt, or because let's say he sold the business for $9 million.
Mm-hmm.
So he had like $2 million in debt, and he was like, man, that was kind of hard for me. But then he would say, well, his buddy sold his business for $20 million, but he had like $10 million in debt. So he basically used debt in order to build his business, but he had an exit strategy, which meant that he's going to sell his business, which is going to pay off his debt, and then he's going to collect his money. So credit, as long as you learn how to use it wisely, I would say it's good. If you don't have that discipline, then I would just say, try to stick away from it.
Wow. And look, we talk credit. I'm gonna use this time for a commercial because actually we have our financial literacy um, program coming up at the Fort Wayne Urban League, October 26th. And it just so happened that the topic is going to be credit. This will be the third of a 4-part series, and we had a lot of people asking about credit. It was a hot topic the last time that we talked. So we will be again Fort Wayne Urban League, 1026, 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, 2135 South Hannah Street. Hope to see you there. Third part of series of a 4-part series. Now back to you, John. How about that?
So JJ, what's your thought on credit?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Credit is a good thing. Could be used to your advantage when managed, when having a plan. Uh, again, I've referred to our guys from DNR that come on often, and like you said, that credit card, don't purchase something that you can pay off, right then and there. Because again, if you can't, you just, you're gonna put yourself in that hole. But one of the things I talk about, one of the biggest misnomers, and again, when we talk about our culture, one of the biggest myths is you don't have any credit. You pay everything off. And then, so that's what we're thinking. We have people running around bragging. Yeah, I don't know anything, blah, blah, blah. Then they need to buy a house or they need to borrow some money, but they don't have any credit. So you do want to establish some credit. You want to have that credit out there. But again, like I told folks, my credit card company, they don't make anything off me because, I use it for just that. If I buy something with a credit card, it's paid off at the end of the month. I'm not going to pay those, high interest rates that they have. So,
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. And you also said something. I had a client, and he was high earner, so he had never had debt, and so went into business, and then trying to get a line of credit, and they're like, you don't have any any credit history, so he couldn't get a line of credit. So here's a person that has net worth, you know, $8 to $10 million, can't get a line, can't get a line of credit. Then you have me, and I can get a line of credit. So it's like what you're saying is that you definitely, if you're going to do things, you just got to first understand yourself, but also make sure that you establish something and pay it off every month so that you don't have the issue.
Yeah, there you go. And again, it speaks to what I always talk about, and even in our workshops. We have folks in there that might make $12,000 a year. We have folks in there that's making six figures, a year. But when you're talking finances and debt, you have to have that discipline to manage that money. So it doesn't matter how much you make; it's about what you're doing with the amount that you make.
Yeah.
So, how about investing in wealth building?
Hmm. Um, Investing in wealth building. So I read somewhere, I'm not sure how true it is, about wealth building is the two ways to generate, wealth is, have your own business, number one, or real estate. Number two, I think real estate is, generational wealth because it's going to take you, basically, hypothetically, you get a building, today, the value goes to $500,000. You pass, your son gets that building now at, if it's, now his basis is $500,000. So if he sells it, he gets $500,000 for free. But then if he keeps that building and then it goes up to $1 million, then now it's $1 million. And so, it could be generational, wealthy. So that's what I feel about, investing and just building wealth is that you got to have one or two things. You can do it if you have a W-2 job as well. But you just got to manage your money well.
Correct. All right. Insurance, whether personal or
Insurance. Yeah, you should have my sister on the show for insurance because she works down at Ash Brokerage. She's my insurance person. Um, I think from my standpoint, just to make sure that you have, you understand insurance and that you understand, what they're selling you, because you can either get term or whole life. So depending on your situation, one is going to be good for you versus the other one.
okay. And then what about retirement and financial goal setting?
Financial goal setting is important. I think that you should have short term goals and long term goals, and should also have like retirement goals so that you're making sure that you evaluate yourself at least every year to make sure that you're going towards that goal. And I'm not sure if I talked about it before. One of the things that I try to measure myself against is just building up my net worth. So your net worth is basically your assets, what you own, minus your liabilities, what you owe, and then that's your net worth. So I try to track every year to make sure that my net worth is growing every year. So my net worth may go from, it's not mine, but it may go from 500,000 to 600,000 every year. So you want to make sure that that number is going up, because like you said before, it doesn't matter how much money you make. It's just a matter on how much money you spend, or making sure, how much money you're keeping for yourself or for your family, and making sure that it's reaching your goals.
All righty. Well, hey, John, it's been good having a discussion with you. I appreciate you being on. I hope we made sense out there to folks. We weren't all over the place, but I thought it was, very important because, again, talking about the importance of financial literacy and why we do what we do. I work at Lake City Bank. I know the effort that we put into serving all people and making sure our resources are available to everyone. The other things that are going on is collaboration. I work at Our Neutral Voices, and we're starting the Cis District Coalition, which means we're getting everybody on board to make things better for people in our community. Collaboration is key. People talk about, man, you're everywhere. I see you here. I see you there. Yeah, you do, because it's all about that collaboration. Whether it's ONV, Rainey, which is a realtist of Northeast Indiana. We are out there. We're involved. And yes, you're going to continue to see my face. We're going to continue to do whatever we can to try to help our folks understand the importance of these topics, of these issues, and to help level the playing field, because it's not make-believe. It's real life situations. If it wasn't, we wouldn't have, fair lending regulation by the federal government. We wouldn't have CRA, which is a Community Reinvestment Act, out there with regulations. All these things are put into place to try to level the playing field for all people. So with that said, hope to see you out 10/26 at the Fort Wayne Urban League, 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock for our financial literacy workshop. I'm out of here. ONV.